Okay. Addressing the subject of the video quickly. The PlayStation 1 was revolutionary for the time. There's really no debate, honestly. Alright, welcome back to the channel. And you may know I like gaming. I don't have an issue, you do, and I'm more qualified than you. But in all seriousness, a lot of our modern games have roots back to this console. Not literally, in some cases, but the way the games are designed, the way that they're stylized, just how they play out in general, they have roots to this console. So it's 1993. And Nintendo and Sony have been working on a CD add-on for the SNES. You've probably heard this story 1,000 times. In 1993, they cancel the project. So Sony, right here, gets mad at them and decides to make their own console. So in 1994, we get this hunk of junk. So you know how Sony was trying to help Nintendo with a CD add-on for the SNES? Well, they kind of just decided to do it themselves. So yeah, they use CDs, and you would simply take it out of the case. Sometimes it'd come on 2 CDs if the game was too big. For example, one of these games is Gran Turismo 2, and just pop it in right here, close it up, turn it on. Of course, mine isn't really plugged in right now, of course. Now, these CDs actually held quite a bit more than these crusty old SNES cartridges. SNES cartridges, they could only hold a certain amount. I mean, does this look like it could store a lot? Don't answer that. I know it does, but it's crusty cartridges from the 1990s. What can you expect? However, CDs held a lot more, so you could fit a lot more information. Also, CDs just simply have better sound. SNES cartridges, I mean, they couldn't produce sound very well. These are meant for basic sound and basic video. However, the CDs could have much better music on them because they were meant to have music. So, you know, this has better sound than Beavis and Butthead on the SNES. So not only could we have more stuff in our games, we could have killer soundtracks with great audio quality. What's not to love? Also, this acted as a CD player. You could actually just put a CD in here and play it straight from your PS1, which now, it just seems like, so what, it plays CDs. But back then, in 1994, that was a much bigger deal than it is today. A lot of people still had cassette tapes, and they were still using them. So, to be able to play all sorts of audio CDs, you know, such as the hottest new albums, Dookie, and better quality, it was a good thing at the time. So you got more storage space, better music, and you could play CDs straight out of the box. So, this is already a lot more versatile than the SNES. All the SNES could do is play games. This was like kind of a toy back then, to be honest. That's kind of how the NES was marketed, at least. And, well, yes, a lot of kids have fond memories with the SNES, and it was a good console to play games well. This was just simply more useful. It's more useful, and it's more powerful. Actually, it's powerful enough to render 3D games. For example, take F-Zero on the SNES. That was a 2D racing game, and while it was impressive for the time, and it still looks pretty good now, it wasn't really true racing. However, since the PS1 was 32 bits, we could have, honestly, kind of true 3D graphics now. On the SNES, you could have 2D that was similar to 3D, but wasn't quite there yet. The PS1 was, quite frankly, really powerful for the time compared to what we had with the SNES and Sega Genesis and all those consoles. This was honestly just kind of the no-brainer to get. It's more useful, and you have way better quality games. What's not to love? We'll get to that. Also, as the final kick in the head to Nintendo, memory cards. It's as simple as that, really. You could save your games. And while yes, some old SNES games did allow you to save, heck, even some NES games allowed you to save, that was typically more expensive. You had to use batteries to kind of just keep it safe. I don't know. Now, quite a few SNES games also allowed you to save with passwords. Once you got to a certain save point, it'd give you a password, and then you could just type it in next time you booted up the game, or maybe you ran out of lives and continues. So, there was ways to save, but some of them were just more expensive or time-consuming. Heck, the batteries in the SNES cartridges, they wore out after a couple decades. Like, some of them, you'll find you can't save on them anymore, even though you originally could. So, that's kind of an issue, but memory cards, they changed that. PS1 memory cards. They let you save anything. As long as you had enough space on the memory card, you could save your game, take it with you, or maybe you lost a game disc, or you broke it somehow. Well, you could buy a new game, and then you could resume the game from where you were on here. Just like that. Alright, but what about the controller? Well, I have to say that at first I didn't really like the controller, but it's kind of grown on me. Actually, I think it's the best thing to use for PS1 games. I know you can get DualShock controllers for the PS1 and PS2 controllers also work on the PS1. However, the joysticks are just in the wrong place. I don't know if it's because I've got total Xbox fingers or what, but I don't know. The Xbox controller just feels a lot more ergonomic and just better to use. But whatever. The PS1 controller it's a good controller. Functionally, it's similar to the SNES controller, which is right here. This is actually just an aftermarket one, but it's pretty much the same. You have the start and select in the middle right here. You have Y, X, A, B, and I think the aftermarket one switches around a few things, but you get the point. There's 4 buttons over here, D-pad, and then 2 shoulder buttons, one right here and one right here. On the PS1 controller, however, you have all those buttons, and then you have 2 shoulder pads on each side, which that adds a lot more capability to your game, a lot more ways to control. So, we're finally done rambling. Let's actually play the games. So if you start the thing up with no disc in, you have a screen. You have the option to go to your memory card, and you can check out what saves you got. So I've got a lot of Gran Turismo and Crash Bandicoot saves, apparently, and Tetris. But that's not what we're here to look at, really. We all know we're here for the CD player. Yeah, that's right. Unfortunately, you can't do anything without a disc in, so what was popular in 1994? I know. While American Idiot is a better album, we're listening to Dookie. We're going all the way back to 1994, because this is what kids were listening to in 1994, right? The newest pop punk band on the scene. So, here we are. Here we go. Yeah, I'm not gonna turn that on because I don't want to get copyright claims, so we're just gonna stare at 7. But if Mom didn't want you listening to Green Day, understandable, honestly, you could put in a game. And today we're gonna put in Gran Turismo 2 because that's probably the best PS1 game I've got. And the only one I have that'll actually read properly on this. This thing is trashed. So after about 10 to 15 tries, I actually got Gran Turismo 2 to load. My PS1's slightly broken down, so it doesn't work very well. However, we finally got it going, and look at these cutscenes. They're not bad, are they? The PS1, while the video on it isn't great as far as pre-made videos, it's not bad. It could be worse. The world is spinning around, out of control again. Sorry, break for Green Day. Okay, we're recording with our phone because I don't feel like setting up my game capture. However, you'll notice that the graphics aren't bad. You know, they're a little pixelated, and they probably don't look nearly to justice if I'm recording my 720p LG TV from 2011, but like, either way, you can tell this isn't bad, and everything runs pretty smoothly. Well, that was a pretty well-known title on the PS1, but what about just a simple game, like the next Tetris? Put it in. This is like my only game that reads first try, but I'll wait for it to load. Well, chances are, you're probably pretty happy to know that games such as Tetris run smoothly. They run perfectly fine. Okay, we're on the floor now. So what do I think about the PS1? It's still a good console. It's not bad. It's still usable today. Like, if this was the only thing, you could definitely live with it. It's modern enough, so it's still, like, good, but it's not too old. Really revolutionized a lot. 3D gaming, 32-bit graphics, discs for gaming. It really changed the landscape, and I love it a lot.